I would like to talk a little bit about making traditional weekend Sabbath cakes for the Sabbaths. The traditional recipe actually is usually found and inspired by the cakes made for Diana from Charles Godfrey Leland's book Erodia, or the Gospel of the Witches. The recipe I'm using starts with 2.5 to 3 cups of flour, usually if you watch many cooking shows, they'll actually tell you to spoon the flour into a measuring cup like this, and then scoop it up. But I found when making this recipe that if I do that, I usually don't have enough flour, and the cakes turn out rather hard. And for our British friends, that equals just over 2 pounds. Almost 3 pounds of flour. So to that we need to add a teaspoon of salt, one teaspoon of baking powder, and 2 tablespoons of oats. Add another half of flour. Yeah, that's about 2 pounds and 14 ounces. Now you see that we have moved to the stove where I am preparing the moist ingredients for the traditional pagan Sabbath cakes. And that's of course because the Erodia text actually says that the honey and the wine must be cooked together. So we have here in the saucepan 8 tablespoons or 1/2 cup of butter and 4 tablespoons or 1/4 cup of shortening that we are melting down, and to that we're going to be adding 1 cup of sugar, and I already added the splash of the wine just a minute ago. And we need 2 teaspoons of the very best vanilla that you can afford. And this happens to be my favorite vanilla from Traditional Spices. Which contains a real vanilla bean. There we go. We're also going to be adding 1 teaspoon of cinnamon, also from Traditional Spices. Oh, looks like I've lost my flame. There we go. And you need 2 tablespoons of honey. And if you happen to be a herbalist, you may add an infused honey if you like. This recipe only calls for about a teaspoon of wine, and I generally use the wine that I am already going to use in the Sabbat at hand. This wine is just some meat I happen to have on hand, and I've just turned off the heat because this is a glass saucepan and it conducts heat really well, so the butter should finish melting. And just keep stirring it until the last of the butter has dissolved. And then the final ingredient you add to this are 2 eggs. And don't add the eggs to the hot ingredients while the butter is simmering, otherwise you'll have scrambled eggs and you'll ruin the whole dish. Just quickly rake up the yolks and stir them together until they're well incorporated. And those are the wet ingredients. On a side note, I have it on good authority that that the cinnamon that Americans use is actually a different cinnamon than what is typically used in England. The cinnamon we use is Vietnamese cassia cinnamon, whereas the cinnamon from the UK is typically Ceylon, which comes from India. And the reason for that is because the Ceylon cinnamon actually became too expensive to import into the U.S., and we were able to get a much deeper, stronger cinnamon from Vietnam. I'm back at my handy dandy KitchenAid with the dry ingredients in it, and all you need to do now is you simply pour the hot liquid mixture into the dry ingredients, and easier if I simply do it this way instead of accidentally making a mess. And the sugar and the cinnamon smell wonderful. I wish you could smell this. You lock the head in place and you simply turn it on. And you mix it just until it is fully incorporated. Let's give it just a quick turn. And it's simply scoop the rest of the dough from the beater blade, and then you just pop it into the freezer for about an hour, at least an hour, so that it's nicely chilled. And it's easier to work with because as you can see now, it's really, really sticky. Don't worry, my fingers are clean. Now that the dough is chilled for an hour, you simply scrape it out of the bowl onto a lightly floured counter and you roll it out to 1/4 of an inch thick. Then you simply take a crescent moon cookie cutter and you cut the dough into crescent shapes, which is tradition. Then, after you have placed them on a lined baking sheet evenly, you simply pop it into the oven at 350 degrees for 6 to 8 minutes. Once the cakes are finished baking, you simply place them on a rack to cool. Here's mine. And just roll up the scraps and keep creating cakes. For your coven or a public ritual or what have you.